You're listening to the Better People Podcast. Your host today, Rhonda Ramirez, LPC from Central Texas, licensed professional counselor, and then me, Thomas Miller. Today, we're talking about the positives of social media. In a previous episode, we talked about the dangers of social media. And so, Rhonda, you there?
I am. I'm here.
So, right off the bat, if I say, I know a lot of people connotate social media as a bad thing, and it definitely can be when it's used as a replacement. But what would you say are some positives you can see from social media?
Well, for sure, they're through this time period where we have been maybe a little bit more at home because of COVID, there has still been some connection. It's not the same connection, but at least we're still connecting with others. I always say, for me, social media is more about keeping up with my friends' lives. We're all in different places. Some of them have kids. Some of them have businesses. So being able to kind of keep up and not necessarily, not for the comparison part, but knowing, hey, this is really going on, or really even close friends that I talk to weekly or even more, I still keep up with their social media because then I get to see them and I get to see what they're posting about their kids or see what they're posting about their job, things like that. So I think that, and then that can turn into a conversation when I get on the phone with them or when I get on FaceTime with them. I'm like, oh, hey, I saw you posted this, what was going on there? That looks like fun.
Yeah.
So kind of keeping connected with just some daily things that's going on in their life.
Well, I was going to say we have a mutual friend that she still does it, but she would share, it was what's for dinner, and she'd show, enchilada. I think she still does it, enchiladas or something. And then when I was working out of that office with her, I'd say, hey, I saw your post about this. How do you make these? And so it always was a good conversation starter.
Right. It's a great conversation starter. Sometimes it's a reminder of, this is one of the reasons I love this person. That particular friend, that's one of the things I admire about that person is that they are really intentional about making food for their family, right? And so that those things are like, oh yeah, this is a reason why I love this person or why I really connect with this person. And so I think some of that connection from social media that is people you personally know kind of keeps you in the loop and can be those conversation starters, those, oh my goodness, I remember when we did this and that was so fun and I'm so glad you are continuing that or whatever that is, So I think it's the first one I would say is just kind of keeping connected in a way that we haven't been able to do before social media. I would say the second really great thing is that you can connect with people who have not necessarily similar beliefs, but you can connect with a group of people that may like similar things. I know I'm a member of a group that exchanges puzzles. Okay, well, it sounds ridiculous, but it's super fun, something to do, and you can switch with somebody, and then you might make a new friend. It might create a new type of relationship. I'm also in a group because I teach. I have a very specific group that's high school art teachers. So those are connections across the state and across the United States, maybe even internationally if I think about it, that, you get for my job, I get inspiration from. And those are people I would never meet really on a regular basis because I kind of stay around here.
Right.
You can even find groups that are similar to some kind of therapeutic groups. You can find a group that may be talking about I have overcome this particular thing, or these are things I deal with. Here's some really encouraging things. That may be two separate things, but
Well, it could be. Well, I was going to say that a lot of it is, and we talked about the dangers of, it's possible to
right,
follow the wrong things, but it's also
correct.
possible to follow the right things and the ones that are going to enrich your life. And if
Yes.
you're following, positive or different angles of looking at life type of positions, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily mean the positive statements. So they're good, they're helpful, but they're, I'm talking what you're talking about of like-minded interests, and I'm referring
Correct.
to healthy interests. I wouldn't necessarily say
Correct.
follow
Of course.
a politics group, but something
Yeah,
that art
probably not
teachers,
the
yeah,
most.
probably
Yeah.
not the most conducive thing to do for health, but for
Yeah, good mental health.
yeah,
But yeah, but something that's connecting you as a group. I'm trying to think of. I also am a member of a group about house plants. I love plants. And so again, it seems menial, but for people who are really into plants, it's cool to see other people's plants. It's also cool to get advice from people um, who may have more experience than you. Just some connections that I would never have made. Maybe at least I'm getting some information that I also would not have access to, or maybe not know how to ask. I'm trying to think what else. Are you members of any groups, social media
I
groups?
I am, and I hate to admit it because it shows my age, but I'm a member of the Instapot groups and the air fryer
Oh, that's yeah. No,
groups,
me too.
and so
Me too.
in fact, as I say this, I'm looking at my Facebook feed right now, and I'm seeing recipes come through, and I'm sure, and I subscribe to the Facebook Always Listens to Us, and so I'm confident that everything we've discussed we're going to see.
Oh, for sure.
We're going to see
We
the
will
same
for
ads
sure
for.
see it more.
But there's another
Mhm.
one I follow that it's not as common now since the pandy's kind of winding down globally, but you've got the
Right.
the view outside my window. There's one that's a group that would
Yes.
show the people's views. And okay, so my favorite group I follow, I'm a dachshund owner, and I follow
Yes.
a lot of the dachshund groups. And so I see dachshunds in my feed, and I'm like, oh, that's cute, and I'll share it with my wife or with somebody. And so yeah, I'm definitely a part of some of these groups. And they do have a positive feeling behind it.
For sure. Yes, just like your dachshund group, I'm also a member of a black cat group because my cat is black and I just love her to death. So, of course, anything that will put cat pictures in my feed is really cool to me.
Right.
So some of that is just knowing what to filter for your own social media, right?
Right.
Is choosing the right things to follow and to interact with. So, so that all those computer programmers can send you the right things more.
Well, that's been my point is like, if you're going to show me ads for things that I really want to see,
Yeah, for sure.
The other group is this, and this is intended to be, here's what Thomas follows, but another one is, it's called Abandoned Texas. And I know that sounds depressing, but what it is it's photos and some videos of abandoned locations
I love that.
Yeah. And so, and again, it sounds depressing, but it's really, I've always had I admire, and there's something about seeing the old photo or the photos of old buildings that aren't lived in anymore or used anymore, just to see, wow, look at that. Look how nature's reclaimed that. And so,
right.
So yeah, but it's down to the eye of the beholder, really. I guess where what pulls your inspiration. And again, we're talking positive inspirations, not necessarily the negative, because because I know if we say, oh, there's all these positives, there's also the negatives, which we did go over. I want to be very clear, we did talk about the negatives, and there definitely are. And when people tell me, oh, I'm not on Facebook or in any of the social medias, I'm like, wow, I'm so envious of you. How do you do that?
Right. Well, and I also think in again, in my line of work, I'm an art teacher. So I follow a lot of artists. So during, artists, both musicians and visual artists and all kinds of artists are, posting, I'm trying to think of the word, posting constantly so that we're taking in information. And a lot of the artists that I follow are posting techniques and things that I can learn and things that I can share with my classes, which again, I have never had so much access, direct access to artists living. Before the social media stuff, you could try to email them, but even before that, you could try to mail a letter to them, and that may or may have gotten a response. But currently, if I'm following an artist on Instagram and I'm like, "Ooh, I would like to, show my students this," or "I would like to try this technique with my students," I send them a quick message, and the majority of the time, the artist will, or their workers or whatever, somebody will answer from the artist camp, and a lot of times it's the actual artist, and say, "Yeah, that's cool. Here's some videos that I've made already." Or if you want to set up an interview, we could do that. And that's not access that I or anyone have ever really had with people who are creating. So, and I know that's specific to me, but I think that's a really huge benefit, is being able to kind of interact with inspirational people in a way that we haven't had before, that access.
Right. Right. And we're talking, of course, the majority of what I'm referring to is Facebook, but even TikTok, it's all depends on what you've told it you've liked to see.
Right.
And that all is conditioned to what you have done before. And so, it goes to, if you've got a kind of a mindset of following the things that aren't enriching to you, then you're probably not going to see that, and you'll feel the opposite. And so, but no, I can't disagree with any of that. I mean, I follow a lot of the inspirational people in my circles, and what I do like is majority of them will get back to you. And it depends on who it is.
Exactly.
Sigourney Weaver is probably not going to contact me if I message her. But,
correct.
I do know that, if there's somebody in a tech group that I follow, and maybe they do a podcast, if I reach out, there's a high likelihood they'll reach back out to me.
They'll respond.
Yeah, exactly. And for those listening, if you reach out to us, we'll reach out to you too. So
for sure. We always respond.
That's right.
Yeah, I just think that there are some really interesting ways to connect with people that I have never had access to before. And it's as long as we, kind of keep that filter of, is this healthy or is this unhealthy? We kind of keep that filter on in our brain and be able to kind of be disciplined sometimes and say, you know what, I've been on here too long. Let's put that away. But, there are a lot of positives to be able to keep up, with things that you might have an interest in, but maybe don't have time daily to, investigate or look up. But if it pops up on my Instagram feed, is where I see a lot of art stuff, where it pops up there, I'm like, ooh, that's an interesting idea. Let me try that. And then it becomes a whole different thing, using that information to connect with my students who are right in front of me. It's not just the digital in the web connection, but also then I use that information and turn it around and then connect with people who are in front of me. So, I think that's a really great way. Also, there's some really good, again, kind of just really positive, therapeutic kind of things that you can also follow. And it's not a replacement for therapy. It's not trying to be therapy, but they're just they'll post thoughts or stuff like that on a daily basis. That's just like, okay, you're right. I need to keep my perspective. This is not going to end my world. It just feels like that right now. Things like that.
Well, and there are friends that I have in real life, IRL, as they say, that I know they're going through struggles, and then I'll see what they post on their pages, and they'll reference it, and I know what they're fighting, and so I'll personally message them from time to time and say, hey, I saw that. I know what you're going through. I'm sorry, but I also admire your ability to put on a positive, view. But I know deep down inside it probably does hurt very bad. But and so that's motivational to me sometimes to see that as well, and because knowing that person in real life, I know what you're going through, and that I see why you're referencing that. Let's talk, and also that's been another positive in some cases is I'll have acquaintances or friends that will post something of concern, not necessarily direct, but something that, like they'll say, hey, I'm having a terrible day today, keep me in your prayers. And I may say, hey, what's going on? And they'll share that. And then, so to say social, because I've had people say, well, you can't really change people's minds on social media. You can't really influence people on social media. You can. I mean, nothing beats.
It's just in small, minuscule ways.
Yeah, nothing beats conversation. Nothing beats face-to-face contact, and the whole point of this podcast is to kind of help people to get into the mindset of it's okay to talk to people. You're going to have bad days. You can't necessarily shut down. We do often, and there's probably an underlying reason behind why we will. But it's just very, very interesting. I guess that's the best way to look at it. Well, we are actually out of time. So this subject went on pretty well. I liked it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wind us down, and we'll come back next week for another episode. If by the way, Rhonda, we have a new website. We've launched.
Really?
It's betterpeoplepodcast.com. And we've had a website for a while, but this is a newer look, kind of more podcast friendly. You can leave us messages. You can subscribe faster and easier, better, faster, stronger, kind of a concept.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah. And also on our Facebook page, Better People Podcast when you search for that in Facebook, as well as Twitter. And I think that's it for now. We might do TikTok at some point, but not anytime soon. You don't want to see me up there dancing. So, well, with that said, we're going to go ahead and wind down, and, for everyone listening, thanks for listening to this episode. This has been Rhonda Ramirez with us, and myself, Thomas Miller. We hope to see you next week. As always, thanks for listening.